Hello, BookTube. We're continuing on here with the 7th bookcase shelf tour. This is the second shelf. Again, it's nautical. So we'll dive right in here. The first is Life and Times of Horatio Hornblower by C. Northcote Parkinson. On the previous shelf, I showed you the Horatio Hornblower novels. So this Horatio Hornblower was the central character in C.S. Forester's celebrated series of 12 novels set in the age of fighting sail when Britannia ruled the waves. In this acclaimed fictional biography of Hornblower, Cecil Northcote Parkinson chronicles the rise to eminence of a young Royal Navy officer from midshipman in 1794 to a revered admiral of the fleet in 1847. Northcote Parkinson's powerful evocation of life at sea in a British man of war during the Napoleonic period is unique in its authenticity and attention to detail. And for somebody who ran out of Hornblower novels to read, reread, and reread, this book was a treasure. It has, like a standard biography would, images that support the narrative. Of course, this is all fictionalized, but done in such a way that it's a bit of an education about the period and all that. So I really enjoyed this. This next biography is not fictionalized. This is Tom Pocock's Captain Marryat, seaman, writer, and adventurer. I do not have a lot of, I don't even think I have any of Captain Marryat's books, but he is the original, as far as I'm concerned. He did Hornblower type stuff before Hornblower. And there may have been other writers that could fill that. But for me, he's the one I always think of. Well, let me get to it. Frederick Marryat was England's most famous author in the years between Jane Austen and Charles Dickens. Even more than that, he was a naval hero of the Napoleonic Wars, and it was his exploits in the Royal Navy during those years that formed the core of his writing. After leaving the sea, he settled into a life of a man about town and became a central figure in Charles Dickens' celebrated literary circle. He was a journalist, a duelist, a courtier, and, like Dickens, an acutely observant traveler in the United States before finally settling down as a farmer deep in the English countryside. His novels for both adults and children became worldwide bestsellers, and Children of the New Forest continues in popularity today. With his famous stories of the sea, like Frank Mildmay and Mr. Midshipman Easy, he invented a fictional genre of which C.S. Forester and Patrick O'Brien are modern descendants. So he led a fascinating life, a very active life, and this is really was an enjoyable book. Let me give you the publication to you. This is Stackpole Books, 2000. So. And then, getting to Patrick O'Brien, this is Harbors and High Seas, an atlas and geographical guide to the Aubrey Maturin novels of Patrick O'Brien. So you can take this. This is a Dean King book with John B. Hattendorf. And an Owl book, Henry Holt and Company, New York. Maps by William Clipson, Adam Merton Cooper, and Jeffrey Ward. And this was 96 and 99. So this is a paperback. I've never seen the hardback. I don't know if there was one. So if you're following the stories, this is a great, great help. Just fantastic reference work if you're working your way through Patrick O'Brien. A lot of information. Then next, Mutiny Run by Frank Eccles. This is 1994, St. Martin's Press, New York. England is at war with revolutionary France, and the Royal Navy desperately needs every able-bodied man it can find. The mutiny at Spithead is therefore a disaster, and ships not already involved are immediately ordered to sea. So, adventure story. Then this begins a series by Julian Stockwin, and these are quite popular right now. They're the kid novels. So, 1793, Europe is ablaze at war. The British Prime Minister is under pressure to intimidate the French and dispatches a Navy squadron to appear off the French coast. To man the ships, ordinary citizens must be press-ganged, and that's how we start out. And this is Let's see, U.S. edition, 2001. So Kid Becomes a Hero. There's Julian Stocklin there. And I don't have this whole series. I've just sort of grabbed at it when I've seen it. This is Artemis. Same series. So it follows right up on Kid there. This one is Scribner's out of New York, and this is also 2001. And then we move to Mutiny, right here. Another Kid novel by Julian Stocklin. And it looks like this, we're missing one called Sea Flower, which I do not have. And this is 2003. And then this is Quarterdeck. Another Kid novel. McBooks Press Incorporated, Ithaca, New York. And this is 2004. And so those are the Kid novels. I'm reading those rather haphazardly as I find them. This here is a Patrick O'Brien, The Rendezvous and Other Stories. I am started into his Aubrey Maturin books. I held off on those for quite a lot of reasons. I'm into the second one, and I waited till I completed a folio set, which I showed in an earlier video. So this is W.W. Norton and Company, New York and London. The first American edition of '94. And here we have another McBooks Press. This is actually number 2 in a series, and you'll see I do this a lot. I grab these as I find them, and sometimes it can drive you a little crazy. This is the French Admiral, the Alain Lui Naval Adventure Series number 2. So it's Dewey Lambden. There he is right there. These are good novels. I enjoy these. And then this is another one, Dewey Lambden, Alain Lui Naval Adventure, The Gun Catch. I'm not even sure what number that is. This is Donald I. Fine Incorporated out of New York, 1993. So it looks like the order is, let's see, the King's Privateer, the French Admiral, which we have there, the King's Commission, the King's Coat, and then this will be the Gun Catch, will be the next one. Then moving along, we have a writer who I've just discovered, and she writes nautical fiction. She also writes nautical history, maritime history, that is really, really good. And I'm thrilled to have found her fiction, and I'm looking forward to reading it. Run Afoul, A Mystery by Joan Druitt. Beautiful covers on these. Where's the author? Joan Druitt is an award-winning nautical non-fiction writer, is the author of 2 previous entries in the Wiki Coffin series, A Watery Grave and Shark Island. And she lives in New Zealand, and there she is. And quite a nice discovery. This was published, let's see here, St. Martin's Minotaur, New York. And this is 2006, and the one I found with it, again, I'll end up reading these all out of order, is Deadly Shoals. There's a beautiful cover. St. Martin's Minotaur, New York, and this is 2007. So Wiki Coffin plays many parts in the U.S. exploring expedition. Sailor, linguist, navigator, and is half Maori cultural go-between. So those should be fun. Moving right along, you got to have Joseph Conrad. These little penguin editions with the French flap and the decal edges. So Heart of Darkness. And then Victor Southern, Royal Yankee, a sea adventure novel. This is between 1739 and 1748, Britain fought the Spanish and then the French, their fleets and armies clashing on almost every theater of war, from America to the Indian Ocean and the battlefields of Europe. Royal Yankee introduces Edward Mainwaring, a young seafarer destined to be caught up in this war, in its violent combat, its rough camaraderie, its active courage, and its feats of strategy. So this is St. Martin Press, New York, and this was from 1987. And then a writer I really enjoy is Philip McCutcheon. This is Cameron's Raid, which is St. Martin's Press again, and it's 1984. Right from the start, the whole exercise seemed doomed. When he'd heard he was to take part in one of Churchill's most audacious, some would say foolhardy, operations, Lieutenant Commander Donald Cameron reckoned expendability was in the air. So, World War II adventure story. Then we get Philip McCutcheon, the same author, in The Age of Sail. Here's the second mate. This is St. Martin's Press, New York again. And this is 95. Look at the list of books that the author has done. I'm not even close to having the collection, that's for sure. This is 95. Let's see. Rousing new adventure series set in the early years of this century, when Britannia still ruled the waves and the sails were still as common sight as steam pipes. The wind is finally filling Philip McCutcheon's sails. Second Mate is the second novel featuring Tom Chatto, a young, eager, honest Irishman learning the ropes as a British seaman. And then we get to the series that he's probably most famous, or at least I know the best, and that's the Half-Hide series. So it's Philip McCutcheon, Half-Hide, and the Chain Gangs. This is St. Martin's Press, New York, 1985. Murder and chicanery involving a consignment of gold bullion stalks St. Vincent Half-Hide as he, in his latest adventure, sails a square-rigged ship, Glen Hallidale, on British government service from an English dockyard at Cape Town. This time, his cargo consists of a large group of convicts from the infamous Dartmoor prison, volunteers to serve as labor battalions to fight against the Boers in South Africa. Volunteers who travel in chain gangs and under strict escorts of armed warders and Half-Hide's hastily converted hold. So the Half-Hide, I've got a bunch of them, and I really, really like them. So we got Half-Hide and the Fight of Benin, which is number 1. And these are McBook Press, so they redid the series. Let's see if they give us anything else. We'll just run through them. Here's number 2, Half-Hide's Island. Number 3, Half-Hides and the Guns of Arrest. Number 4 is Half-Hide to the Narrows. And number 5 is Half-Hide for the Queen. Good fun series, real quick reads. And then we'll finish up the shelf with some of these. Let's go here. I've only got the first one of these. This is Alexander Fulton, The Blooding of the Guns, the Everard Naval Series, Volume 1. And this is the last day, on the last day of May 1916, 150 ships and 60,000 men under the command of Sir John Jellicoe engaged the German high seas fleet of 100 ships and 45,000 men in the icy North Sea at the epic Battle of Jutland. Young Nicholas Everard, a sub-lieutenant serving on a British destroyer, has the opportunity to demonstrate talent and courage, the very qualities needed as the Royal Navy meets the German challenge to its supremacy on the high seas. This is the first in a series of 9 acclaimed novels of naval adventure featuring the Everards, father and sons, culminating during World War II. So, good story. I need to find the rest of the series, however. And then here we have J. Worrall, Sails on the Horizon, a novel of the Napoleonic Wars. And this is 2005. There's the author. A Spanish frigate, small among the men of war, but deadly with a broadside of 20 guns, crept around the bow of the San Nicolas under topgallants and jibs close enough that Charles could see her captain, a short, wiry man in a brilliant red and blue uniform, shouting orders. He watched with a helpless feeling as she crossed the Argonaut's undefended stern, her gun ports open and her cannon waiting. "No, please don't," Charles breathed. The Spaniard's broadside came in a tearing crescendo, sending ball after ball screaming the length of Argonaut's decks. Without the time or wit to flinch, Charles felt the concussion of a passing shot and saw Billy Bowles, struggling to stand, dissolve into a mist of gore. He swore savagely as the black-hulled ship mauled her mainsail, methodically ran out her guns, and fired again. Fun stuff. This next... Well, let me do these, because I'll finish up on the last two. This one, a lot of you will know. Michael Crichton, Pirate Latitudes. This is the pirate story that was... Oh, here's beautiful end papers. That was found among his papers after he died. I guess that's the story. HarperCollins Publishers, 2009. Story starts out in Port Royal. It's a good story. But moving along here, this is a story, this is a series I've found recently. I don't know much about. So they're published by University Press of New England. I'm always on the lookout for new nautical stuff. I found each volume in a different place. I think both of them were library book sales. And I don't have the first one. I'm going to have to find it. It's called The Frost Saga. It's by a gentleman named J.E. Fender. I just put them both up here. Audacity. And the other one's Our Lives, Our Fortune. The account of life and times of Geoffrey Frost, mariner of Portsmouth in New Hampshire, as faithfully transcribed from the Ming Sun Chronicles and diligently compared with other contemporary histories. Sort of cool, huh? The author is legal counsel for the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is the U.S. Navy's oldest shipyard. So I guess the first one is The Private Revolution of Geoffrey Frost. And then, so I need to find that to start this series. Maybe I'll go on ABE Books and see if I can hunt it down. So this is totally new to me. I have no idea what the quality is, but it's always an adventure, you know. So that is the second shelf of the nautical books. I know these are running a little long, and I try to run through them rather quickly. So thank you, BookTube.